I'm going to do the second epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Thessalonians, and I'm going to read through this book, but today I'm just going to read through the study notes, which is at the beginning. This isn't scripture, it's just kind of a help to understand the context of culture and all that kind of stuff. So I've done that with most of the other books of the Bible that I've read before. It's just a good idea to get a reminder of who was writing the letter, which is Paul in this case, and why he wrote it, to who he wrote it, and kind of what was going on at the time. I think sometimes we really read through our own lens, like scripture, like with our kind of modern eyes and mind and feelings, and we need to kind of put on Paul's instead and why he was writing at that time. So let's start in. Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians is a follow-up to the first. It appears to have been written shortly after 1 Thessalonians in response to certain reports that had come to the apostle regarding the Thessalonians' progress. See chapter 3, verse 11. Paul was still in Corinth and unable to leave his work there. However, he continued to maintain a keen interest in the little church to the north, which had shown much promise. See chapter 1:3 and verse 4. Despite some continuing serious problems, for background details on the city of Thessalonica and its church, see the introduction to 1 Thessalonians, and that is in a previous video. While Paul was encouraged by their faith and steadfastness, he could see that many in the assembly were still very confused about the second coming of Christ. Paul even suggests the possibility that some are deliberately misrepresenting his teaching on this all-important subject. See chapter 2, verse 2. The possibility of such a deception is supported by counterfeit letters purportedly written by the apostle, and he exhorts them to pay attention to his signature so that they may distinguish the genuine letters from the false ones. Chapter 3, verse 17. Paul knows the ultimate source of this trouble is Satan himself, the evil one, and he's confident that the Lord will protect them. Nevertheless, this misunderstanding had led many in the church to forsake their occupations, to lead undisciplined lives, and to breed unrest among the people by becoming busybodies and beggars, living off those who still maintained gainful employment. See chapter 3, 6 through 15. Still others had become discouraged, thinking that the day of the Lord had already begun and that they had somehow missed it. They had expected Christ to destroy their enemies, yet they were still suffering persecution. Paul addresses these problems, and he explains that while the time of the Lord's coming cannot be predicted, it will be a spectacular event that no one could miss. Furthermore, if the day of the Lord had already begun, then many other events would already have taken place. See chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. Since they had seen none of these events, they could be sure they had not missed the Lord's return. In the meantime, they should take heart in the fact that from the start, God's purpose was to include them in the glorious events of Christ's coming. See chapter 2, verse 13-14. As for those who were presuming upon the good graces of their brethren, they should get to work, or expect not to eat. And then there's an outline here of 2 Thessalonians. So in chapters 1, verse 1 and 2, you have the greeting. And then in 1 and verses 3 to 12, you see a personal encouragement. And then in chapters 2 and 1 to 17, you see the doctrinal correction of the Thessalonians. And in chapter 3, verses 1 to 15, you see practical exhortations, including a prayer of Paul, confidence in the Lord, and discipline of the unruly. And then it finishes out with a benediction in chapter 3, verses 16 to 18. Okay, so I'm going to finish there for tonight, and I'll start in chapter 1 next time. We'll probably do chapter 1 and chapter 2.